You've been lied to about money your entire life. Here's a question that'll keep you awake at night. If every country on Earth is drowning in debt, the US owes $33 trillion, China $15 trillion, Japan $10 trillion, then who the hell is everyone paying? It's like discovering everyone in your neighborhood owes money to the same mysterious landlord nobody has ever met. The curiosities of global finance hide a truth so shocking that once you understand it, you'll never look at money the same way again. Most people think national debt is just boring economics, but what if this debt is actually the greatest wealth transfer mechanism ever devised? While you're working harder each year, there's a shadowy network creating money out of thin air and charging the entire world interest on it. The geographical curiosities reveal that a handful of buildings in financial centers control more wealth than entire continents. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's documented reality, and understanding it means the difference between financial freedom and economic slavery. The solution isn't what your financial advisor told you. Once you understand who really holds the world's debt and how the system operates, you'll have the knowledge to protect yourself and potentially profit from the same mechanisms keeping everyone else trapped. The Curiosities Geographicas we're about to explore will show you exactly how money flows globally, who controls it, and how you can position yourself on the right side of this financial equation. Imagine walking into a room where everyone owes money to each other, but nobody can explain where that initial debt actually came from. That's exactly what's happening with the global economy today. One of the most intriguing curiosities of the worldwide financial system is how virtually all countries manage to be in debt simultaneously, creating a paradox that challenges our basic understanding of money. It's like the entire world has contracted a cosmic debt with an invisible entity, and few stop to question who really holds these promissory notes. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, we're talking about a phenomenon that shapes the lives of billions of people daily. The financial geography of the world reveals fascinating curiosities when we analyze debt flows between nations. United States, China, Japan, Germany, all these economic giants carry trillions in debt, yet they're also creditors to other nations. It's like a game of musical chairs where everyone's moving, but nobody actually leaves the game. The geographical curiosities become even more evident when we realize that small countries like Luxembourg can be creditors to much larger nations. The plot thickens when we discover that even central banks, which theoretically create money, also have debts on their balance sheets. Well, here's where things get really interesting. Modern money isn't based on gold or silver anymore, but on promises and trust. When you take a loan from the bank, that money didn't exist before. It was literally created at the moment of transaction. Now picture this happening on a global scale, with entire countries operating under this same principle. The curiosities of the system reveal themselves when we understand that global debt grows exponentially, but the planet's physical resources remain finite. It's like playing Monopoly where the bank can print money infinitely, but the board stays the same size. Behind every national debt, there's a web of institutions that most people never even think about. The Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of Japan, these aren't just fancy names on buildings, they're the puppet masters pulling the strings of global finance. Here's one of the most mind-blowing curiosities: these central banks don't actually belong to governments the way most people think they do. They're private entities with public facades, and they literally create money out of thin air when governments need to borrow. It's like having a friend who can write checks from an account that never runs empty, except this friend charges interest on money that never existed until the moment you asked for it. The geography of financial power reveals curiosities that would make even the most seasoned economists scratch their heads. Take the Bank for International Settlements in Switzerland. It's basically the central bank for central banks, yet most people have never heard of it. This institution coordinates monetary policy across different countries, making decisions that affect currencies from the dollar to the yen. The geographical curiosities become apparent when you realize that a small building in Basel, Switzerland, has more influence over global economics than entire parliaments. These shadow institutions create a financial geography where real power doesn't follow political borders but flows through networks of banking relationships. Now here's where it gets really wild. commercial banks also play the creditor game, but they're borrowing from central banks while lending to governments and individuals simultaneously. It's like a financial Russian doll where each layer owes money to the layer above it. Investment banks like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and Deutsche Bank hold massive amounts of government bonds, making them literal creditors to entire nations. The curiosities of this system reveal themselves when you understand that these banks can influence government policy simply by buying or selling bonds. They're not just lending money, they're essentially renting out the future prosperity of entire countries, and charging interest for the privilege. The world's financial map doesn't match the political one you learned in school. It's far more complex and interconnected than any geography textbook could ever show. Picture this: a farmer in Brazil taking out a loan affects interest rates in Tokyo, which influences bond prices in London, which impacts currency values in New York. These curiosities of global finance create invisible threads that connect every corner of our planet in ways that would blow your mind. The geography of debt flows reveals patterns that seem almost mystical. Money moves across continents faster than information traveled just a century ago. It's like watching a massive spider web where touching one strand sends vibrations through the entire structure, affecting regions thousands of miles away. Different geographical regions have developed unique relationships with debt that reflect their historical and cultural contexts. Asian countries like Japan and South Korea have built economies around massive internal debt, while their geographical neighbors focus on external borrowing. The Curiosities Geographicas become fascinating when you realize that landlocked countries often have completely different debt structures than coastal nations. Switzerland, nestled in the heart of Europe, has become a global financial hub despite having no access to the sea. Meanwhile, island nations like the Maldives face unique challenges where their geographical isolation creates dependency on foreign creditors for everything from infrastructure to daily necessities. The most intriguing geographical curiosities emerge when we examine how debt creates virtual bridges between regions that have little physical connection. A pension fund in Canada might own bonds from a highway project in Chile, creating a financial relationship that transcends borders, languages, and time zones. These connections mean that economic decisions made in one geographical location ripple through the global system like waves in an ocean. For instance, when the Federal Reserve changes interest rates, it doesn't just affect Americans, it impacts everything from commodity prices in Africa to real estate values in Australia. The geography of modern finance has created a world where financial weather in one region can create economic storms on the opposite side of the globe. Here's where the real magic happens, and it's so simple that most people can't believe it's actually how the system works. When you deposit $100 in your bank account, that bank is only required to keep a fraction of it, let's say $10, in reserve. The other $90? They can lend it out to someone else, who then deposits it in their account, and the cycle continues. It's like having a geography of money that multiplies itself through pure mathematics rather than physical creation. The curiosities of this system become apparent when you realize that if everyone tried to withdraw their money simultaneously, there simply wouldn't be enough physical cash to go around. Banks are essentially running the world's largest and most sophisticated magic trick, and the audience doesn't even know they're watching a show. The geographical implications of fractional reserve banking create curiosities that span continents and cultures. A small regional bank in Kansas can create money that eventually flows to investment projects in Singapore, all through this multiplication effect. Different countries have different reserve requirements, some as low as 1%, others as high as 20%, creating a geographical patchwork of money creation rates. The Curiosities Geographicas become even more fascinating when you consider that digital banking has eliminated most geographical constraints on this process. Money can be created in New York, multiplied in London, and invested in Mumbai within seconds, all without any physical movement of currency. It's like watching a financial teleportation system that operates across time zones and national boundaries. Now here's the kicker that'll really blow your mind. Central banks can lower reserve requirements whenever they want, instantly increasing the money supply without printing a single bill. During the 2008 financial crisis, the Federal Reserve essentially reduced reserve requirements to zero for most banks, creating trillions of dollars overnight. The curiosities of this system reveal themselves when you understand that economic growth often depends more on how much money banks can create than on actual productive capacity. Countries with more sophisticated fractional reserve systems can literally create prosperity out of thin air, while nations with limited banking infrastructure struggle to access capital. It's like playing a video game where some players have cheat codes that others don't even know exist. Here's where the real magic happens, and it's so simple that most people can't believe it's actually how the system works. When you deposit $100 in your bank account, that bank is only required to keep a fraction of it, let's say $10, in reserve. The other $90? They can lend it out to someone else, who then deposits it in their account, and the cycle continues. It's like having a geography of money that multiplies itself through pure mathematics rather than physical creation. The curiosities of this system become apparent when you realize that if everyone tried to withdraw their money simultaneously, there simply wouldn't be enough physical cash to go around. Banks are essentially running the world's largest and most sophisticated magic trick, and the audience doesn't even know they're watching a show. The geographical implications of fractional reserve banking create curiosities that span continents and cultures. A small regional bank in Kansas can create money that eventually flows to investment projects in Singapore, all through this multiplication effect. Different countries have different reserve requirements, some as low as 1%, others as high as 20%, creating a geographical patchwork of money creation rates. The Curiosities Geographicas become even more fascinating when you consider that digital banking has eliminated most geographical constraints on this process. Money can be created in New York, multiplied in London, and invested in Mumbai within seconds, all without any physical movement of currency. It's like watching a financial teleportation system that operates across time zones and national boundaries. Now here's the kicker that'll really blow your mind. Central banks can lower reserve requirements whenever they want, instantly increasing the money supply without printing a single bill. During the 2008 financial crisis, the Federal Reserve essentially reduced reserve requirements to zero for most banks, creating trillions of dollars overnight. The curiosities of this system reveal themselves when you understand that economic growth often depends more on how much money banks can create than on actual productive capacity. Countries with more sophisticated fractional reserve systems can literally create prosperity out of thin air, while nations with limited banking infrastructure struggle to access capital. It's like playing a video game where some players have cheat codes that others don't even know exist. The invisible chains of perpetual debt create geographical patterns that would make ancient empires jealous of their reach and efficiency. Countries rich in natural resources like Venezuela and Nigeria find themselves trapped in debt cycles despite sitting on massive oil reserves, while nations with virtually no resources like Singapore thrive through financial engineering. It's one of the most paradoxical curiosities of our modern world. The places with the most wealth in the ground often have the poorest people above it. The geography of debt creates a new form of colonialism where instead of sending armies, creditor nations simply restructure payment terms. Debtor countries end up exporting their natural resources and human capital to service obligations that grow faster than their ability to pay, creating a geographical redistribution of wealth that flows consistently from south to north. The social consequences of this debt geography create curiosities that reshape entire cultures and ways of life. In Greece, austerity measures imposed by creditors forced an entire generation to emigrate, literally changing the country's demographic map. Young Greeks now populate German and British cities, their skills and energy serving economies that hold their homeland's debt. The Curiosities Geographicas extend beyond individual countries. Entire regions like sub-Saharan Africa dedicate massive portions of their GDP to debt service, money that could otherwise fund education, healthcare, and infrastructure. It's like watching a massive vacuum cleaner that sucks resources from developing regions and deposits them in financial centers like London, New York, and Zurich. Perhaps the most disturbing curiosity is how debt creates intergenerational geographic mobility patterns that previous generations couldn't have imagined. Children born in heavily indebted countries often face a choice: accept lower living standards at home, or migrate to creditor nations where their labor helps generate the wealth used to service their homeland's debt. The geographical curiosities become apparent when you realize that brain drain isn't just about opportunity, it's about debt structure. Countries like Lebanon, Argentina, and Sri Lanka have seen their most educated citizens leave not just for better jobs, but to escape the economic suffocation caused by national debt obligations. It's like watching a slow-motion geographical reshuffling where human capital flows toward financial centers, leaving debtor regions with aging populations and reduced capacity to generate the wealth needed to break free from debt cycles. Now that you've seen behind the curtain, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to pretend this debt illusion doesn't affect your life, or finally take control of your financial destiny? The curiosities we've explored aren't just facts, they're your blueprint for understanding how wealth really moves. Every day you delay acting is another day the system works against you instead of for you. If money is created out of thin air, why are you still trading your time for currency that loses value? If geographical financial networks control more power than governments, why aren't you positioning yourself within them? The Curiosities Geographica show you exactly where opportunities lie, but knowledge without action is just expensive entertainment. Are you going to complain about the system or benefit from understanding it? Start questioning every financial decision through what you've learned today. Research these institutions, understand how your local banking connects to global networks, and build wealth using the same principles that create money for those at the top. Subscribe and activate notifications to continue learning about these financial curiosities most people never discover. Your journey to financial literacy has only just begun.